Okay, you're right. So today we're going to be looking at percentages again. And specifically, as you can see in my bullet points here at the top, we're going to be looking at expressing one quantity as a percentage of another and also finding a percentage of a quantity. There's so many things we can do with percentages, but we're just going to get really good at them. So let's do that. But before we launch into our percentage work, I'd really love us to do 5 retrieval questions, these questions down here in blue. So pause the video now, have a crack at those, and let's come back for the answers. Yeah, okay, so now checking your answers over here in pink. I got 8/9 here for the first one, turning the division into a keep flip, keep change flip, and doing some simplifying, getting 8/9. For question 2, 7 9s are 63. They're the numbers, and I've got 1, 2, 3 decimal places, so I've got to fit 63 into 3 decimal places. So there we are, 0.063, 0.063. 7/20ths, turn that into hundredths so that we can write it as 35 hundredths, 35%. -3 minus -2, that becomes -3, the effectively +2. We are increasing by 2, therefore it becomes -1. And question 5, a negative times a negative gives us a positive. So just a little bit of a recap. I'm going to put these in routinely when I'm setting you these questions. But right now I need some room, so I'm going to get rid of this now and we will continue with our percentages. Okay, so now expressing one quantity as a percentage of another. Okay, so why might we want to do that? Let's say that I told you you scored 34 marks in a test. Okay, 34 marks in a test. Now, what does that tell you? 34 marks in a test. What information are you getting from that? Or perhaps more importantly, what information are you missing from this? So hopefully you're thinking, well, 34, what was it out of? So this is why we might want to express quantities as a percentage, because 34 marks on its own doesn't mean much. But if I told you that the test was out of 100, then that tells you, well, 34 marks in a test out of 100, that is not so good. That's 34%. Right, but if I said, no, actually 34 marks was out of 50, now you can smile a little bit because you're up above 50%. You're on 68%. 34 marks out of 50. So converting one quantity as a percentage of another is a good thing to be able to do. It's an important thing to be able to do. So perhaps my first example will actually read something different. It'll say, what is 34 out of 40 as a percentage? What is 34 out of 40 as a percentage? I can't get rid of this little A here. I don't know. Hopefully when I erase the whole board, that'll go. What is 34 out of 40 as a percentage? Well, look over here. We weren't having too much trouble with these, were we? 34 out of 100, right? We know that 34%, that guy there is out of 100, special fraction. 34 out of 50, in our heads, we imagined 68 out of 100, didn't we? So that was no trouble. 34 out of 40, not as straightforward. But let's figure out how we'll do this. 34 out of 40, what does that mean? Well, if it was this out of means divide, doesn't it? Or over. Right, 34 out of, 34 over 40. So 34 over 40, that's the fraction that we want to convert into a percentage. So essentially this is a fraction into a percentage question. So 34 over 40, I want to turn it into a percentage. How do I do that? I multiply by 100 over 1%. And we're back in the territory that we were talking about in the last day or two, where we've been converting fractions to percentages and just decimals to percentages and percentages to fractions and percentages to decimals. All right, so we're back in that sort of zone. So really it's just coding. What is 34 out of 40 as a percentage? What does it mean? It means 34 over 40 times 100. Okay, so then we get down to work on crunching these numbers. So we're going to do a little bit of simplifying or dividing before we multiply out, because then our numbers will be heaps smaller and hopefully you agree with what I'm doing here. And look, I can get rid of this 2 here because these numbers are both even. So I'm left here with 1s underneath, which is lovely. And on top I've got 17 times 5, which is 85%. Now maybe you know what 17 times 5 was. You could have come down here, just a little bit of work like so. 5 7s are 35. Hopefully that's all good. And then 5 1s are 5. Sorry, and 1 and 3 is 5. So that's all good to do that. So 85% is my answer. Okay, let's have a look at another example. Excuse me. So what is 13 out of 30? So 13 out of 30 as a percentage. All right, so what I'm going to get you to do in a moment is copy these examples down. This is example 2, I suppose. Don't like the way that I've done that. Okay, so there's a 1 there. So example 2 is 13 out of 30 as a percentage. So what does this 13 out of 30 mean? It means 13 over 30, and I want to convert it to a percentage. How do I do that? I multiply by 100 over 1%. Okay, don't forget that percentage sign. Now let's get to work. We are going to, when you get rid of zeros, what are you doing? You're dividing by 10. Dividing top and bottom by 10. Have we got anything else? 3 down here, 13, 10 there. I've got no other pairings. So let's multiply out now. 13 times 10, that's 130. 3 times 1, that's 3. Okay, 130 over 3, I want to do better than that. Now, you know that I'm happy with improper fractions, but not as a percentage. So let's run 3 into 130 and see what we've got. I'm going to come down here and work out how many 3s I've got in 130. I've got 4 3s. A 12 is a leftover of 1, remainder of 1, 3 into 10, 3 times. I'm going to have to put some zeros down here. I've got a 1 left over, so I'm going to be repeating that, aren't I? So it's 43 1/3%, or 43.3 repeater percent. I'm going to put it as a decimal, 43.3 like this percent. So 13 out of 30 is 43.3%. Okay, now I've got a couple for you, so I'm going to get you to pause the video here. I'm going to get you to copy these 2 examples down and then start the video again. When you start the video again, there's going to be a couple of examples for you to do on your virtual mini whiteboards. Okay, new screen. On your mini whiteboards, I've even drawn you some little mini whiteboards here. I want you to do 21 out of 30 and 11 out of 60. So pause the screen now and work out what 21 out of 30 is as a percentage. Go. Okay, let's see how you've gone. 21 out of 30. Now 21 out of 30 means 21 over 30, turning it into a percentage times 100 over 1%. Okay, and let's get simplifying. 0 gone, 0 gone. All right, I've got 3 here, 1 3 and 7 3s here. So I am left with 7 times 10, which is 70%. So 21 out of 30 is equal to 70%. Did you get that right? I sure hope so. Give yourself a tick if that's the case. All right, let's go to the next question. 11 out of 60 as a percentage. Please do that on your mini whiteboards, your virtual mini whiteboards. Go. 3, 2, 1. Show me your answers. Okay, so I get 11 over 60. 11 out of 60 times by 100 over 1. So let's have a look at what we get. Divide by 10, divide by 10. Well, 6 and 10, they're both even. 3 and 5. What's left? 11 times 5 is 55. 3 times 1 is 3. 55 over 3%. We better find out how many 3s are in 55. Well, I've got 1 3 here, 2 remainder. I've got 8 there and 1 remainder. And I'm going to continue with that, aren't I? So that's 18 1/3 or 18.3%. Excellent. Okay, so that's expressing quantity as a percentage, giving some more information. We can really understand these numbers here So 11 out of 60 or 18.3%. Which one is the most understandable for you? Which one do you prefer to work with? So now we're going to move into some more practical type of examples. I want to clear this board. That was just Mr. Mac returning my keys to me. So we're going to have a look at a couple more examples. I'm going to pause this. Okay, here's an example that I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to get you to do one. So 60 cents out of $5. How might we do this? I want it as a percentage. 60 cents out of $5. I should put here as a percentage. Okay, so 60 cents out of $5. What does that mean? It means 60 out of, but I've got to get this $5 into the same units as this 60 cents. So there's no point in putting 5 here because the 5 is in dollars. I have to put it in the same units. So $5 is 500 cents. So this is my fraction multiplied by 100 over 1%. And now let's get to work. 1 0, oh, I can get rid of another 0 there. 5 and 60, right? They're both multiples of 5, 1 and 12. My work is done. 12 times 1 equals 12%. 60 cents of $5 is equal to 12%. Okay, here's one for you. Can you work out 30 cents as a percentage of $2? 30 cents as a percentage of $2. Go. Just so we're clear, when I say go, that's pause the video and go and work it out. Okay, 30 cents as a percentage of $2. 30 cents as a percentage of $2. $2 being 200 cents. So this is saying what's 30 out of 200 as a percentage. Here's my working out. Chop some zeros. Chop the 2 and the 30. We are left with 15%. Okay, we're going to look at some examples now of finding a percentage of a quantity. Now these are perhaps a little bit more intuitive. Let's work through these two examples. 25% of 128. So I want to find out what 25% of 128 is. Now we're often in a position where we want to find a percentage of an amount. Maybe there's a discount going on. Maybe there's a percentage added onto something. We want to know what we want to be able to calculate what percentage of an amount is. So here's how we do it. 25% of 128. So if this is 25%, we know that 25% means 25 out of 100. So that's how we write 25%. This word here, of, in mathematics, that translates to times. So 25 over 100 times 128. I'm going to write 128 over 1 so that I can work with it. Okay, so now doing some simplifying before I multiply out, because if I just multiply this straight out, wow, I'd have a huge number over here, but I'm going to make these numbers smaller first. 25 and 100 become 1 and 4 because 25 goes into both of those. 4 and 128, well, I can see they're both even, so why don't I divide them both by 2? And then, why don't I divide them both by 2 again? So now I have 1 times 32. I've got 32 left here. So 25% of 128 is 32. Okay, let's have a look at the second example. 155% of 60. So this is 155%, which I write as 155 over 100 times 60 over 1. Think about this. 100% of 60 would be 60. So I'm going to get a number that's more than 60, but less than 120. Okay, let's do some simplifying here. I'm running out of time. I better do this quickly. Divide by 10, divide by 10. Divide by 5, divide by 5. Just did that quickly in my head. Divide by 2, divide by 2. I am left with 31 times 3, which equals 93. So 155% of 60 is 93. Here's 2 for you. Okay, first example for you to try, 20% of 60. Go. Okay, how'd you go? Hopefully you stopped the video, you worked it out, and you got 12. Here's your second one. There's your second question, 140% of 30. Go. Okay, wrapping this up, checking your answer for 140% of 30. 140 over 100 times 30 over 1. Simplify, 42 is your answer. Over here in green are your questions for the next 15-20 minutes and also for homework. Okay, see you next time.